Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
hmm
Today, we're going to be looking at something that I think is increasingly relevant to, well, everyone, really,
Yeah.
and that is online security.
Mm.
So specifically, we're diving into an article from Protect Your Business called Why Security Matters.
Okay.
And it's really aimed at helping small businesses and freelancers, kind of get their heads around all the risks that are out there.
Right.
But honestly, a lot of the stuff in this article, it applies to like anyone who uses the internet.
Oh, absolutely.
Period. Like if you're online, this is for you.
For sure.
And some of these stats in here are honestly kind of alarming.
Oh, yeah.
Over 50% of internet users have been affected by cybercrime.
Wow.
And just think about how many people are online these days.
I know that's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. And on top of that, a lot of these attacks, they're not even like specifically targeted.
Right.
It's not like someone's out to get you personally. It's more like these automated scripts just casting this huge net
Yeah.
and seeing what they can catch.
Yeah.
So to help us kind of break down all of this, understand the why, the what, and the how,
Yeah.
we've got an expert in the house today who, well, they live and breathe this stuff.
I try.
So when we talk about online security today in this current landscape, like what's the first thing that we really need to understand? What's changed?
Well, I think the biggest shift and the thing that really makes online security so crucial now is that, well, practically everything is online,
Hmm.
right? It's not just shopping and social media anymore.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Businesses, how they operate, it's all online now.
it really is.
Customer data, all the tools they use internally, even their supply chains,
Hmm.
legal compliance, all of it relies on the internet.
Yeah,
And that just creates so many potential entry points for attackers.
right. Yeah, it's not just the volume of information that's out there, but the fact that so many of these vital processes now just completely depend on being online.
Exactly, yeah.
So there's this myth that the article mentions that only large companies or like famous people are targets for these kinds of attacks. Is that really true?
No, not at all. Honestly, most of these attacks are automated.
Huh.
They're targeting everyone and anyone they can.
Wow.
It's like, think of it like a thief checking car doors.
Okay.
They don't care who you are. They don't care what's in your car. They're just looking for the easiest way in.
Right. So they're just going down the line, click, 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 click.
Exactly. Yeah. And the article brings up a really chilling point. These attacks, they're often really cheap and easy to execute.
Yeah. I mean, there's literally a whole underground economy now
I know.
supplying all the tools and resources. It's crazy.
A whole industry. Yeah.
In 2021, victims of compromised email accounts, just email accounts, lost over $1.86 billion.
It's crazy.
That's wild. And that's just one type of attack, right?
Right, exactly. There are so many.
So if these attacks are so widespread, what are some of the real world consequences that people should be aware of?
Okay, well, obviously there's the financial hit,
Right.
recovery costs,
Hmm.
potential lawsuits, lost business if your systems are down or because, your reputation takes a hit.
Right. Yeah. Makes sense.
But it goes beyond just money. Think about all the lost productivity when you're dealing with one of these attacks.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially for a small business.
Yeah.
All that time you have to spend recovering data, rebuilding systems, it can be crippling.
It's true. The article uses this example of an accountant losing all their client data during tax season.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not just an inconvenience at that point. That could potentially ruin a business.
Oh, absolutely. For sure. And then there's the potential for actual data loss, like customer info, financial records, anything you can think of. And it's not always about stealing the data.
Right.
Sometimes it's about holding it hostage or even, destroying it completely. And even if you can recover the data, you still have to think about the damage to your reputation.
Mm-hmm.
In today's world, trust is so important.
It is. Yeah.
A security breach can just shatter that trust, and the consequences can be felt for years.
That makes sense. I mean, we're entrusting businesses with so much sensitive information these days.
Right, absolutely.
It's like the article says, a security breach isn't just about losing money. It's about disrupting your operations, eroding that trust you've built with your customers, and even potentially facing legal action,
Absolutely.
especially with regulations like GDPR and NIS2, like businesses are being held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about like the types of attacks that are out there.
Okay.
The article mentions these targeted attacks,
Hmm.
but it kind of emphasizes that they're pretty rare, right? Like, what's more likely? What are we more likely to encounter?
Yeah, you're right. The targeted attacks are more of a concern for, like, nation states,
Right, right.
or super high profile individuals. What most of us need to be concerned about are what we call non-targeted attacks.
Okay.
And it's kind of what we were talking about earlier, that spray and pray approach.
Right, right.
They're casting this huge net, just seeing what they can catch.
Just hoping something bites.
Exactly. And in that category, one of the most common and honestly one of the most effective attack types is phishing.
Phishing.
Yeah.
So those are those emails that are trying to trick you into giving up your passwords or clicking on bad links.
Exactly, yeah.
It seems so basic, but the article says that over 80% of successful cyber attacks involve phishing.
I know. It's crazy.
Like, why? Why is it still so effective?
Well, it's all about human psychology. It's not always about sophisticated coding or anything like that. It's about creating that sense of urgency or fear or even excitement,
Right.
to get you to click before you really think about what you're doing.
So you're not thinking clearly.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, some of them are so obvious,
Yeah, yeah.
but some of them, they can be really, really convincing.
And then, of course, there's things like ransomware, which seems to be kind of a growing trend these days.
Unfortunately, yeah.
That's where they hold your data hostage until you pay a ransom.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. And what makes it so profitable for them is the rise of cryptocurrency.
Yeah. Makes it harder to trace.
Exactly. Very hard to trace the payments. And to give you an idea, in 2023 alone, the total amount of ransom paid exceeded $1 billion.
$1 billion?
A billion, yeah, it's crazy. It just
Yeah.
shows how lucrative it is for these guys.
So it sounds like we're talking about this constantly evolving landscape, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's always changing. The article really stresses the point of not underestimating these attackers.
Right.
They're not static. They're adapting all the time.
Absolutely, yeah. It's this constant cat and mouse game between the attackers finding new vulnerabilities and security professionals trying to, patch them.
So they plug one hole, they find another.
Exactly. And it's not just lone wolves anymore. We're talking about organized groups, highly sophisticated, with tons of resources,
Right.
stolen data, AI-powered phishing campaigns. It's a full-blown industry at this point.
Okay, so it's pretty clear that we need to be taking this seriously.
Yeah.
But with all this talk of sophisticated attackers and evolving threats, it's easy to feel overwhelmed.
Right.
Like, what can we as individuals and even as businesses actually do to protect ourselves?
Yeah. Well, that's the good news, actually. There is a lot we can do, and it doesn't have to be complicated.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Yeah, a lot of it just comes down to building good security habits.
Right.
And, the article mentions a program they have offering like basic steps to improve protection. It's a great starting point, actually.
Okay, so let's get into some of that practical stuff.
Mhm.
Like, what are some of those, simple but effective actions people can take?
Well, one of the most important is two-factor authentication.
Two-factor authentication.
Yeah, 2FA. It adds an extra layer of security to your accounts by requiring, not just your password, but a second form of verification, usually from your phone.
Right, right. I've seen those, like, sometimes it's a code they text you or like a notification you have to approve.
Exactly, yeah.
But isn't that kind of like double-edged sword? Like, what if you lose your phone or something?
That's a valid concern, and it's why there are different types of 2FA.
Oh, okay.
Some rely on apps that generate like time-based codes. Others use physical security keys. It really depends.
So you have options.
Yeah, the key is to choose a method that, balances security with your own comfort level and risk tolerance.
Right.
But honestly, even a simple SMS code is better than nothing.
It's better than nothing, okay.
Absolutely.
So 2FA is a good place to start. What else should we be thinking about?
Well, be cautious about what you click on.
Right.
Phishing emails and malicious links, they're still a huge threat.
Yeah.
And they can be lurking anywhere these days. Social media posts, text messages, even online ads.
So it's everywhere.
Pretty much, yeah. If something seems off, like a strange sender or there's typos or an offer that just sounds too good to be true,
Right.
it's best to just err on the side of caution.
Don't click it.
Exactly.
And it's not just about, like, being careful about what we're clicking on.
Right.
It's also about, like, what we're sharing online in the first place.
Absolutely, yeah. Be mindful of what you're posting publicly.
Right.
Try to avoid sharing sensitive info like your home address or travel plans or financial details.
Right, right.
Anything you post online, anyone could potentially see it.
Right, right. Including people with bad intentions.
Exactly.
Okay, speaking of bad habits, I'll admit I've been guilty of using the same password for multiple accounts,
Oh, yeah.
but I know that's a major no-no.
Yeah, it's like using the same key for your house, your car, and your office.
Okay.
If someone gets that one key, they have access to everything.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, using strong, unique passwords for each account is really crucial.
Mm-hmm.
And a good password manager can really help with that. They can generate and store those complex passwords so you don't have to remember them all.
Yeah, those things are lifesavers, honestly.
They really are.
Okay, so we've talked about, being careful about what we click on, what we share, using strong passwords, what about the software we're using,
Right.
any steps we can take there.
Keeping your software updated is one of the simplest, but honestly one of the most effective things you can do.
Updates.
Yeah, updates often include security patches, and those patches fix vulnerabilities that the attackers could exploit.
Oh, okay,
Mhm.
so it's like locking your doors and windows.
Exactly, you're making it much harder for them to break in.
Gotcha.
And of course, make sure you have a good, reputable antivirus program installed and running on all your devices.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So far, we've been mostly talking about things that individuals can do.
Right.
But what about small businesses? Like, are there any specific recommendations for them?
Yeah, absolutely. The article emphasizes the importance of employee training. Oh, right.
Because cybersecurity, it really is a team effort.
Everyone needs to be on board.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to be aware of the risks and the best practices. Because even one employee falling for a phishing scam, that can compromise the entire system.
It's like a chain, right?
Exactly. The strength of the whole chain depends on the weakest link.
Gotcha.
In addition to training, small businesses should also consider implementing some basic security measures, like firewalls, which act as a barrier between your network and the outside world,
Okay.
and intrusion detection systems, which can alert you to suspicious activity.
And I'm guessing regular data backups are like essential these days, especially with ransomware being such a threat.
Backups are crucial.
Okay.
They're your safety net in case of an attack or data loss,
Hmm.
or even just a simple hard drive failure.
Right.
Make sure you have a solid backup strategy that includes both on-site and off-site backups,
Mm-hmm.
and test it regularly.
Make sure it's working. Yeah.
It's honestly reassuring to know that there are so many practical steps we can take to improve our security online.
Yeah.
It's not about being a tech expert. It's about building those good habits and staying informed.
I couldn't agree more. The key takeaway here is knowledge is power. The more we understand about the risks and the steps we can take to mitigate them, the more empowered we are to be safe and confident online.
It's about being proactive, not paranoid, right?
Exactly.
We've covered a lot of ground today, and this has been really insightful. But with these attackers constantly evolving, is it even possible to stay ahead of the curve?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Or,
It's true, they are always finding new ways to get in. It's a challenge, definitely.
so how do we keep up?
Well, on the technical side, you've got security experts. They're constantly coming up with new tools and strategies.
Okay.
It's like an arms race, really.
Huh.
But instead of weapons, it's firewalls, intrusion detection, AI, threat analysis, that kind of thing.
Okay, so there's this whole technological battle going on behind the scenes.
Right, exactly.
But for the average person, what can we do?
For you and me, a lot of it comes back to just being aware, educating ourselves. The more people understand about these threats and how they're changing, the better prepared they'll be to spot the risks, to protect themselves. It's not just about reacting after something happens.
Right.
It's about preventing it in the first place.
So it's like knowledge is power.
Exactly. The more you know, the less likely you are to fall victim. And remember, it's not about being paranoid.
Right.
It's not about living in fear. It's about being sensible, being cautious, making smart choices online.
Right, finding that balance.
Exactly.
Okay, well, as we wrap up here, is there one key message that you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the most important thing to remember is that online security, it's not a one-time fix. It's an ongoing process. So start small, enable 2FA, strong passwords, think before you click, and just build from there. And don't be afraid to ask for help,
Yeah.
There are tons of resources out there.
It's about taking those small steps and just building those habits over time.
Exactly.
And for anyone who wants to learn more, the article we've been talking about, Why Security Matters from Protect Your Business, they've got some great tips and resources.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be sure to include a link in the show notes. So as we sign off here, I want to leave you with this. What's one thing you can do today, right now, to improve your online security? Maybe it's finally setting up that password manager you've been putting off. Or having a conversation with your family about online safety. Whatever it is, take that step. Because knowing more about online security, it empowers us all. It helps us all be safer online. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.